April 16th, 1945. Edge of the Ruhr pocket, near the smoking outskirts of Hagen, Germany. The air tastes like wet brick dust and burnt oil. Spring rain has turned the fields into a paste that clings to boots and vehicle treads. In the grey light, a column of American troops moves along a hedgerow. Rifles at the ready, steel helmets beaded with water. Somewhere ahead, a machine gun chatters for a few seconds and then stops, like a door slammed shut. Staff Sergeant Tom Keller of the 79th Infantry Division keeps his M1 Garand angled down, but close. The sling cuts into his shoulder through a damp jacket. His squad is tired in a way that feels permanent. They have been fighting for weeks, sometimes days without a proper hot meal, sometimes nights without real sleep. The maps in the platoon leader's hands are smeared from rain and sweat. Pencil lines crossing out towns captured yesterday and adding names nobody had heard of a month ago. Then the world changes in a single moment. A German soldier steps out from behind a shattered stone wall with both hands raised. He is young, cheeks hollow, helmet too large, a grey coat hanging from him like a borrowed blanket. Behind him, more figures appear, not running, not firing, just rising from ditches and doorways as if the ground itself is giving them up. 10, 20, 50. It is not a surrender. It is a collapse. Keller brings his fist up, halting the squad. The men spread out instinctively, muzzles tracking. A few yards behind Keller, Private First Class Eddie Marlowe mutters, barely audible. Jesus, how many are there? More than the squad can count. Hundreds, maybe. They come in lumps and waves, some carrying rifles with fingers through the trigger guards, holding them out by the barrel as if afraid the weapons might bite. Others have no weapons at all. Some have bandaged hands. Some have eyes that are too bright and too scared. A few stare with a hard, exhausted flatness that makes you wonder what they might still do if they get the chance. Keller shouts in English first. Then in the broken German he picked up from a pocket phrase card. Hands up, Waffen down. Move slow. The Germans obey. Mostly. Boots squelch. Belts creak. One man tries to explain something, pointing back toward the town, talking fast. Keller cannot catch the words. Keller is not interested in stories right now. Stories can hide grenades. He has orders, drilled into him since crossing the Rhine. Treat prisoners properly. Search them. Separate officers, if possible. Keep them moving to the rear. Do not let them bunch up around the line. The Geneva rules are not abstract to Keller. They are practical. If you treat prisoners right, maybe your own boys get treated right. If you do not, the war turns into something even uglier. But the rule book never showed a picture of this. The surrender keeps coming, faster than anyone can process. Keller has one squad. There are maybe 300 prisoners already, and the number keeps rising. Somewhere to the rear, military police are supposed to take over. But where are they? The radios crackle with confused reports. Roads are jammed with tanks, trucks, ambulances, supply jeeps, and wandering German columns, all trying to go somewhere at once. Lieutenant Harris, the platoon leader, arrives, breath fogging in the damp air. He takes one look and his jaw tightens. Search them. Quick. Strip weapons. Ammo. Maps. Keep them in a line. No souvenirs. His eyes flick to Keller and hold. You hear me? No souvenirs. Easier said than done. The first searches happen fast. Hands pat coats. Pockets yield cigarette cases. Letters. Photos. A piece of hard bread. A watch. A ring. A German soldier flinches when Marlowe finds a small medal pinned inside a tunic. Marlowe pulls it free, turns it over, and his face hardens. You've been shooting at us wearing this, Marlowe says, not caring if the man understands. He tucks the medal into his own pocket before Keller can speak. Keller steps closer. Marlowe, drop it. Marlowe does not argue, but he also does not drop it. His eyes are rimmed red from fatigue. Keller sees the memory behind them, the blown-out road outside Essen, the medic working over Corporal Diaz while mortars fell, the way Diaz stopped moving. Keller knows how quickly a line can snap inside a man. The prisoners keep coming. Some of them are not regular army. Keller notices a few wearing armbands. Volkssturm, older men with trembling hands. A boy whose helmet sits so low it nearly covers his eyes. The Americans are jumpy around those. The Volkssturm and the diehards have been known to fake surrender, then fire at close range. The fear of that trick spreads like a cold through the ranks. A shot cracks from somewhere unseen. Not a barrage, just one sharp rifle report. The nearest prisoners duck and twist, panic fluttering through them. American rifles swing up in an instant. Keller feels his heart kick. Someone shouts, "Sniper." Another voice, "Get down." In that moment, rules and training collide with exhaustion and anger. A private to Keller's left, face streaked with mud, surges forward and drives the butt of his rifle into a prisoner's shoulder, forcing him down. The prisoner yelps, hands still high. Another American yanks a German officer by the collar, ripping off his insignia and shoving him toward the ditch. A third soldier kicks a pile of surrendered rifles away as if they are poisonous. Lieutenant Harris barks. Stop it, keep them moving, but his voice is only one voice. The line is too long. The rain keeps falling. The war is almost over. Everyone says, yet men are still dying in alleys and barns and orchards. Keller sees it plainly now. The surrender is not just a military event. It is a test of discipline when the enemy is helpless, a test of control when the numbers are impossible, a test of what a man will do when he thinks no one is watching and he is too tired to care. And Keller also knows, with a heaviness settling in his chest, that some men are about to fail. The single rifle shot that started the scare turns out to be a nervous American 2 hedgerows over, firing at a shadow. No sniper, no ambush, just a trigger squeezed too fast, but the damage is already done. The prisoners have seen the rifles swing toward them. The Americans have felt that familiar jolt of fear that comes right before violence. Lieutenant Harris points to a shallow drainage ditch that runs along the field. Put them there. Single file. Heads down. Keep them off the road. The ditch becomes a holding pen. German soldiers kneel in mud, hands laced behind their heads. Their shoulders tremble, not just from cold, but from the strain of holding still. Keller watches their faces. Some stare into the dirt. Some glance up, quick and pleading, like animals waiting to see if the hand raised above them will strike. A few Americans start moving down the line, searching again, faster and rougher this time. Fingers pry at belts. Hands tug open collars. One private yanks a wallet from a prisoner's pocket and flips through it, not even pretending it is for intelligence. Another strips a wristwatch and slips it into his sleeve without looking around. Keller steps in and grabs that private's arm. "Knock it off." The private jerks away. "Sarge, they got plenty." Keller's voice stays low, because shouting spreads. That ain't the point. The private spits into the mud. Tell Diaz that. Keller feels the name hit like a fist. He lets the private go, but his eyes stay on him. A warning. The private turns away, jaw clenched, and moves on. Down near the far end of the ditch line, a prisoner starts sobbing. Not loud at first, then louder, shoulders shaking. He keeps saying a word Keller recognizes from the phrase card. Wasser, water. His lips are cracked. His hands are purple with cold. Marlowe takes a canteen from his belt and holds it out like he's about to do something decent. Then he hesitates. His face changes. He remembers the barns and cellars where German holdouts fired from behind civilians. He remembers friends carried out on ponchos. He tilts the canteen back and drinks instead, never breaking eye contact. The prisoner's sobbing turns to a quiet moan. A sergeant from another squad strides over, face hard and wet with rain. "You got enough men to guard this mess?" "Not even close," Keller says. The other sergeant nods like he already knew. "MPS ain't coming. They're swamped." Brigade says keep pushing. "Clear the pocket. Prisoners can walk to the rear." Keller looks at the ditch. Hundreds of prisoners, many unarmed, some barefoot or wrapped in rags. Walking them to the rear sounds simple until you picture the distance. The shell craters, the clogged roads, the possibility of diehards mixed in who might try something desperate. Lieutenant Harris makes a quick decision. He points to a road that snakes back toward an intersection marked by a burned-out truck. "We march them. Now, keep them moving in columns. Any troublemakers, separate them." The march begins in the mud, a slow shuffle at first. Americans line the sides with rifles at port arms. The Germans stumble, get up, stumble again. Some try to help the wounded. Some are too exhausted to do anything but put one foot in front of the other. A prisoner falls. He goes down on his knees and then onto his side, cheek into the mud. An American guard barks at him to stand. The prisoner does not move. Another guard kicks him in the ribs, not once, but twice. The prisoner coughs and curls tighter. Keller starts toward them. He sees Marlowe already moving too, but not to stop it. Marlowe moves with a stiff purpose, his hand on a grenade at his belt. Eyes scanning the prisoners as if one of them might leap up with a hidden pistol. The guard kicks again. "Get up! Kraut!" The prisoner finally tries. Arms shaking. He rises halfway, then collapses. His eyes roll back. He is not faking. He is empty. The guard lifts his rifle, not to aim, but in frustration, the butt coming down like a hammer. Keller reaches them just in time to catch the rifle stock with his palm. The impact stings. "Enough." Keller snaps. The guard glares. "They ain't people." "Sarge," Keller's voice drops. "They are prisoners. You want trouble after this is over. Keep going." The guard hesitates, then backs off, breathing hard. Keller crouches by the fallen German. The man's skin is gray, sweat mixing with rain. Keller cannot treat him. Not really. There is no medic here. Not close enough. There are too many like him. Keller waves two prisoners forward and points. "Carry him." 2 men. "Go." They hesitate. Then they lift their comrade under the arms and drag him onward. Boots scraping, the column moves again. But the mood has changed. The guards have seen how thin the line is between order and something darker. The prisoners have seen it too. Every time someone stumbles, heads turn, waiting to see if a rifle butt will swing. As they pass a farmhouse pocked with bullet holes, a sudden burst of fire erupts from an upstairs window. Americans dive for cover. Bullets whip through the rain. The prisoners freeze, then crouch instinctively, some dropping flat. An American squad returns fire. The house is hammered with quick, angry shots. The burst stops. Silence rushes in, louder than the gunfire was. Then someone yells. They set us up. A few guards pivot toward the prisoners. Fury blooming fast, because fear always wants a target. Keller raises his voice, sharp as a slap. "No shooting, keep them down." Find the shooter. Lieutenant Harris sprints past, shouting for a flanking team. But Keller can feel the moment teetering. One wrong decision. One rumor believed, one trigger pulled, and the ditch line becomes something else entirely. And in the final days of the war, in places like this, it sometimes did. Keller stays with the prisoner column, because that is where the danger is now. Not from the Germans in the ditch, but from the Americans with their fingers on triggers and grief sitting raw in their throats. A corporal beside Keller keeps repeating it like a prayer that turns into a curse. They set us up. They set us up. The prisoners hear the tone even if they do not understand the words. Heads tucked down, hands rise again. A few whisper to each other, fast and terrified. One man tries to step out of line, maybe to explain, maybe to run. A guard shoves him back so hard he falls into a puddle. Lieutenant Harris appears again, breath ragged. Shooters SS, 2 of them, 1 dead. 1 ran through the back orchard. The word SS snaps through the line like a whip crack. Keller sees faces change. The SS have a reputation in every American unit now. Men have heard about massacres, about prisoners shot, about civilians executed. Some have seen it, and even if they have not, the stories are enough. A private to Keller's right, freckles across his nose, spits and says, "So they mixed with these guys." Huh. Hiding like rats. One of the prisoners lifts his head, eyes wide, palms open as if offering his own body as proof. 9. 9 says, "Here. Army." He taps his chest. "Here." The private steps closer and jabs his rifle barrel toward the prisoner's face. "You all look the same to me." Keller puts himself between them. "Back up." The private hesitates, then backs away, but his eyes stay hard. The column is forced to stop while Harris reorganizes security. The prisoners kneel again. Muddy knees lined up, shoulders hunched. Somewhere down the road, a truck engine revs, then stalls. The front is jammed. They are stuck in the open with too many prisoners. Not enough guards, and adrenaline still in their blood. An officer from a neighboring company arrives, muddy map case bouncing against his hip. He speaks with Harris in quick, sharp bursts. Keller catches fragments. Orders are keep moving, no time, push to the river. We can't feed them all here. Feed them. The word lands heavy. Keller looks at the prisoners. Some have cheeks sunken so deep it makes them look older than they are. A few chew on nothing, jaws working like they are trying to remember food. A canteen is passed down the American side. Not offered, just used. A prisoner reaches toward it without thinking. A guard swings the canteen away and cracks the prisoner's knuckles with the metal edge. The prisoner gasps and pulls back, cradling his hand. Keller clenches his jaw. He wants to shout. He also knows that shouting can turn a crowd into a storm. Discipline right now is a fragile thing, like glass. Then a loud pop. Not a rifle, a grenade. It goes off somewhere behind the column, muffled by distance and rain, but the shock wave carries in the air. The prisoners flinch and some try to stand. Guards swing rifles up. Someone screams. They got grenades. The truth comes out fast. A German prisoner, searched too quickly, had a stick grenade hidden under his coat. He had not thrown it at the Americans. He had pulled the cord and held it to his own chest. When Keller and Harris reach the spot, the man is on the ground, still alive, coughing blood, eyes staring at nothing. 2 other prisoners are wounded from shrapnel. An American guard is bleeding from the calf, swearing through clenched teeth. The guard leader turns in a rage toward the kneeling Germans. That's it. That's it. A few rifles butt forward. A boot kicks a prisoner's shoulder, forcing his face into the mud. Another prisoner is dragged out of line by his collar, the fabric tearing. He stumbles, hands up, babbling. Harris shouts, "Stop! Stop!" He did it to himself. But the men are not hearing logic. They are hearing the pop, the fear, the possibility that the surrender is a trick that will kill them at the last second. They are hearing weeks of loss. Keller grabs Marlowe's sleeve. "Help me." Marlowe looks past Keller at the prisoners, eyes flicking to belts and pockets, searching for more hidden explosives. He speaks through his teeth. "You saw it. Sarge. He could have taken 3 of us." "He didn't." Keller says, "We don't do this." Marlowe hesitates, then steps in and shoves a guard back hard. "Knock it off." The guard wheels on Marlowe, furious. And for a heartbeat, Keller thinks they might start fighting each other. Then Harris forces his way between them, pistol out, not aimed, but visible. Stand down. That's an order. The line steadies. Not because everyone suddenly finds mercy, but because the pistol reminds them someone will be held accountable. Still, the damage spreads in quieter ways. Searches get harsher. Prisoners are made to run when they cannot. Men who fall are struck to make them move. A few are shoved into ditches and left there until the column is ready to pass, then yanked back out like sacks. No one writes it down in the moment. No one calls it a crime in the rain. They call it keeping control. They call it survival. Keller watches the wounded German who tried to kill himself finally go still. His eyes stay open. Rain filling them. A medic arrives too late. Shrugs helplessly. Moves on as the column lurches forward again. Keller understands something cold and simple. When prisoners come by the thousands and the war is ending but still killing, the rules become a thin black line on wet paper. Some men will hold it, some will step over it, and later, far from this muddy road, officers will read reports and decide what words to use. But here, in April 1945, the words do not exist yet. Only the choices do. Lieutenant Harris gets an order from battalion. The prisoners are to be handed off at a makeshift holding area near the river, a field enclosed with concertina wire and guarded by a thin line of tired riflemen. The word passed down is cage, as if that makes it manageable. Keller marches at the side, boots heavy, hands numb. Marlowe walks a few steps behind, eyes still scanning coats and belts, still hearing the grenade pop in his head. The prisoners move like a herd pushed by invisible pressure. If one stops, the whole line compresses, and compression is when guards panic. They arrive at dusk. The rain has slowed to a mist, and the field ahead is a churned sea of mud under low clouds. Concertina wire loops shine dull silver. At the gate, an American lieutenant with a clipboard is shouting at a pair of MPs who look like they have not slept in a week. "How many?" 600. Harris answers. The lieutenant laughs once. Not from humor. "Put them in. You are the 5th group today. We're past 20,000. Keller hears that number and feels something hollow. 20,000 in one field. And that is only one field. The cage is crowded with Germans already. They stand shoulder to shoulder, coats dark, faces blank, eyes following the newcomers. The ground inside is worse, no grass left, only mud and footprints and puddles where men have been kneeling for hours. There are no tents. A few shelter halves are strung up on sticks, but they look like toys against the weather. A corporal at the gate points with his rifle. Helmets off, belts off. Anything sharp goes in the pile. A German prisoner hesitates, fingers trembling at his belt buckle. The corporal steps forward and hits him in the chest with a rifle stock. Not hard enough to break bones, just hard enough to say you are not in control anymore. The prisoner stumbles back, eyes wide, and tears the belt free. Keller watches, jaw tight. He tells himself the corporal is trying to keep order. But he also sees the small thrill in the corporal's face, the feeling of power when the war is almost over and no one is watching closely. Inside the cage, the prisoners are pushed deeper to make room. Men shout at each other in German, angry and frightened. A scuffle starts near the wire. A guard fires a warning shot into the air, and everyone drops like a single creature. The guard's face is pale. His hands shake as he works the bolt. "Stay down," he screams. "Stay down or I swear I'll drop you." Keller knows this guard, not by name, but by type. A kid with too much responsibility and too little sleep. A kid who has been told that any of these prisoners might still have a pistol, a knife, a grenade. A kid who is one sudden movement away from doing something he will carry for the rest of his life. Harris signs a paper at the gate and turns to Keller. "We're moving out. New objective." "Keller, keep your men together." Keller looks through the wire one last time. A prisoner near the front. Older, gray at the temples. raises his hands and says in careful English, "Water, please. There is a water truck somewhere behind the American line. Keller can see it, but it is being used to fill canteens and radiators and whatever else keeps the push going. The cage has a few barrels, already empty, and a single spigot guarded like it is a machine gun." Keller reaches for his canteen, then stops. He has half a canteen left, and he does not know how far they are marching tonight. He also knows what happens when one prisoner gets water. The rest surge. Marlowe stands beside him, silent. Then he takes his own canteen and tosses it, not gently, through a gap in the wire. It lands in the mud with a splash. The older prisoner lunges for it and clutches it to his chest like a child with a toy. Others reach. Elbows jab, hands claw. The canteen is yanked away, passed, fought over. A guard sees it and shouts, "Hey, no." He looks at Marlowe with accusation, like Marlowe just created a riot. Keller steps between them. "Forget it. We're leaving." They walk away. Boots sucking free of mud. Behind them, the cage noise swells. Not gunfire, not yet. Just hunger and thirst and fear pressed together. Later that night, as Keller's platoon bivouacs in a ruined orchard, he hears stories carried by men who drift between units like smoke. Stories of cages overflowing, of prisoners kept out in the open for days, of men collapsing and not getting up. Stories of guards firing into wire lines when prisoners crowd the fence. Stories of beatings that start as discipline and end as punishment. Some of it is rumor. Some of it is true. Keller can tell the difference sometimes by how a man avoids another man's eyes when he speaks. Before dawn, an officer from regimental staff visits the platoon. Muddy boots, clean collar tab that looks wrong in the wreckage. He asks Harris questions in a quiet voice. Any incidents with prisoners? Any weapons found? Any shots fired? Harris answers carefully. Keller watches the officer write. The pencil scratches on paper like a small animal in the dark. Keller understands then that the war is starting to grow a second shadow. The fighting is one thing, the surrender is another, and the way men behave when the enemy can no longer fight back will be judged later. Long after the rain has dried, for now, the cages fill. The front keeps moving, and the line between necessity and cruelty stays thin, stretched tight across a continent that is finally breaking. Keller's platoon arrives to help with security and traffic control, and immediately the scale hits him again. Prisoners are everywhere. Not a few hundred in a ditch, not 20,000 behind wire in a single field, but streams of gray uniforms funneling toward open ground where more wire waits. The prisoners move with the resigned rhythm of men who have run out of choices. The holding area here is larger than the one at the river field, stretched across muddy flats. There are signs nailed to posts, numbers and arrows, trying to make order from collapse. American guards walk the perimeter, some quiet, some barking, some staring with the blank look of men who have seen too much in too little time. A captain with a clipboard waves Harris over. "Keep your men on the east side. We got reports of SS trying to slip in. Search for tattoos. Any trouble, separate them. Search for tattoos." Keller hears the phrase and feels his stomach tighten. It is practical, he tells himself. The SS have their marks. They have done things that have made everyone's blood go cold, but the search itself is intimate, humiliating, and it happens fast. Rough hands pushing up sleeves, fingers pinching skin. Prisoners ordered to strip partial in the rain while guards watch. A German prisoner, stocky, eyes narrowed, refuses at first. He shakes his head, jaw clenched, and says something hard in German. A guard steps close, fist already forming, and Keller is there before the punch lands. "Don't," Keller says. The guard's face twists. He's resisting. Keller points with 2 fingers, not touching, commanding. "Make him show the arm. No hitting. Do it clean. The guard hesitates, then grabs the prisoner's sleeve and yanks it up. The prisoner's skin is pale and wet. No mark, just bruises old and new. The prisoner spits into the mud and glares, but he obeys after that. Not everyone does it clean. Down the line, Keller hears a crack and a cry. A prisoner is on his knees, hands up, blood on his lip. A guard stands over him, breathing hard. Rifle still raised from the blow. No one rushes in. The line keeps moving. The rain keeps falling. The sound is swallowed by the scale of everything. By mid-morning, a new problem hits like a wave. The prisoners have been standing in mud for hours. Many have not eaten. Many have not drunk. The water points are few and guarded. The prisoners begin to press toward the wire where a spigot drips. A guard shouts at them to move back. They do. For a moment. Then they press again. Not as an attack, but as hunger and thirst given legs. An elbow bumps the wire. The wire shakes. A guard hears the rattle and thinks of grenades and pistols. He fires. It is not a massacre. It is a burst into the air and then a second burst angled down. Too low. Keller sees it from a distance. He sees prisoners flinch and scatter. He sees one man clutch his thigh and drop, mud splashing. He sees another crawl, palms slipping. Keller runs, boots slipping. And he is not the only one. Officers sprint in, shouting, arms waving. Cease fire, cease fire. The guard's face is white. His mouth moves like he is trying to swallow his own heart. They were coming through, he says, voice cracking. They were coming through. They were thirsty. Keller snaps before he can stop himself. The guard looks at Keller with a flash of hate. Then something like shame. Medics arrive. Not fast enough. Never fast enough. The wounded prisoner is carried back, groaning through clenched teeth. The wire is steadied. The line is pushed deeper into the field. Order returns in the way a lid returns to a boiling pot, holding pressure down, not removing it. Later, Keller is posted near a gate where new prisoners arrive in lumps. Among them are a few in blackened uniforms, faces set, eyes empty. The rumor has teeth now. Guards stiffen. A private beside Keller whispers, no mercy for them. An argument breaks out near the gate. A prisoner, SS, is dragged aside. A guard punches him in the stomach. Hard, folding him. Another guard kicks him when he falls. Keller steps forward. Stop! The guards look at him like he just defended a snake. You want him to live. One of them says, I want you to live after this. Keller answers, you keep doing that. You're not soldiers anymore. You're something else. The words hang in the damp air. The guards back off. Not because they agree, but because Keller's tone has the weight of a man who will write names down if he has to. That night, Keller sits with Harris near a ruined wall, passing a cigarette back and forth. The camp lights flicker in the distance. The prisoner field is a low roar of voices. Coughing, occasional shouts. Harris stares into the dark and says, this is going to follow us. Keller does not answer right away. He thinks of the ditch line, the rifle butt raised, the canteen thrown, the shots fired in panic. He thinks of how easy it is for a tired man to become cruel, and how hard it is for anyone to admit it later. In the morning, an officer comes through again, asking questions, writing notes. Keller watches the pencil move. He wonders what will make it onto paper and what will stay in the mud. Unrecorded, except in the minds of the men who were there. The war is ending. The surrender is endless. And somewhere inside the wire, thousands of defeated men look out at the guards and try to guess what kind of victors they have fallen into the hands of. The surrender continues. But it has changed texture. In April, it was a flood. In May, it is a steady draining. as if the last strength of the German army is leaking out through every road and forest path. Groups of soldiers appear with white cloth tied to sticks. Officers walk at the front with their hands visible. Some prisoners carry their wounded on doors torn from houses. Keller has not stopped thinking about the cages by the Rhine. He tells himself he did what he could. He stopped a few beatings. He kept a few rifles down. He threw a few words like rope to men who were about to step off a ledge. But the scale was always bigger than him. And that is what haunts him, the feeling of being a drop of decency in an ocean of chaos. On May 4th, they encounter a unit of German stragglers near a wooded rise. The Americans moving cautious, because the last days have taught everyone that a war can still bite even when it is dying. Keller's squad fans out, boots quiet on wet leaves. The Germans are already kneeling when Keller sees them, hands up, weapons piled. One of the Germans, a sergeant with a bandaged head, speaks in English. No fight. War finished soon. Marlowe stands beside Keller, staring at the pile of rifles. Soon, he echoes, voice flat. The bandaged sergeant nods, eyes flicking to American faces, searching for what kind of mood he has stepped into. Behind Keller, a private whispers, "My brother got hit last week. Last week. For this. For these bastards." The whisper is not harmless. It spreads. It becomes a mood. They march the prisoners to a roadside clearing where other American troops have gathered more captives. Here, the guards are not Keller's men. They are from a different company, different division, the kind of tired that looks like a cracked mirror. Their officer is not present. Their sergeant is present but distracted, arguing with a truck driver about fuel. A prisoner tries to break from the group, not to escape, but to reach a puddle where rainwater has collected. He drops to his knees and drinks like an animal. A guard sees it and roars, stomping over. He grabs the prisoner's collar and hauls him up, then slams him back down. The prisoner coughs, hands splayed in the mud. Another guard laughs, short and ugly. Keller steps toward them, and something inside him hardens. Not anger alone, but a clarity. "Stop," he says. The guard looks up, eyes glassy. "Who the hell are you?" A sergeant who's sick of watching this. Keller answers. The guard stands, shoulders squared. Testing Keller. The moment tightens. Keller knows how this can go. Americans fighting Americans while Germans watch. It would be absurd. It would also be real. Then Marlowe moves, quiet and decisive. He puts a hand on the guard's rifle barrel and pushes it down. "Enough," Marlowe says, voice low. The guard's eyes flick to Marlowe, then to Keller, and he steps back, spitting into the mud. He mutters something about Krauts and mercy and dead friends, but he backs away. The prisoner stays kneeling, shaking. Keller turns to the prisoners and points. Back in line. Slow, they obey quickly, as if any movement might restart the violence. That evening, the rumor arrives before the official word. Hitler is dead. Berlin has fallen. The Reich is done. Men repeat it in different accents, like they are tasting the sentence. Some cheer, some just sit, silent, staring at their hands. A few cry without noise. On May 7th, word spreads that Germany has signed. On May 8th, 1945, the war in Europe is over. The celebrations are uneven. In some places, men fire into the air, laughing. In others, they drink quietly, thinking of the ones who did not make it. Keller watches a soldier dance with a French girl in the street of a small town and feels nothing but tired. The prisoners do not vanish when victory arrives. They remain. Millions of them. The cages still exist. The march columns still form. The hunger and thirst still press against wire. The fear does not disappear overnight, and neither does the anger. But the rules start to return in force, like a tide coming back in. Officers talk about procedure again. MPS appear in greater numbers. Paperwork multiplies. There are inspections. There are questions asked by men with clean boots who are not in the ditch line when the rifle butt rose. One afternoon, Keller is called to a makeshift headquarters in a schoolhouse. The chalkboard still has lessons written in German. A captain sits at a desk with a stack of forms. He looks up at Keller and says, "We're collecting statements, incidents with prisoners, any use of force, any shots fired into enclosures." Keller's mouth goes dry. He thinks of the warning shots that went too low. He thinks of the corporal at the gate. He thinks of the guard who fired because wire rattled. He thinks of the German who blew himself up because he could not face captivity. He thinks of Marlowe throwing the canteen and of the scramble that followed. The captain's pencil hovers. "Sergeant." Keller chooses his words carefully. He reports what he saw when he was there. He does not invent. He does not exaggerate. He does not soften. The pencil scratches. Outside the schoolhouse, the world is strangely quiet. No artillery, no distant machine guns. Just birds and the creak of wagons and the occasional burst of laughter from soldiers who are trying to remember what peace feels like. Weeks later, Keller will hear that some abuses were investigated, that some men were reprimanded, that the army wanted order on the record as much as it wanted victory on the map. He will also hear that many things were never written down, because there were too many incidents, too few witnesses willing to speak, too much desire to close the book and go home. For Keller, the final days of the war do not end on May 8th. They end in fragments that return at night, the mud-filled ditch. The prisoner's hands raised, the fear that turns to fury, the thin black line of rules on wet paper, and one memory more than the rest. A German prisoner in the rain, older than most, voice steady despite everything, saying in careful English, "Water, please." Keller remembers how close he came to ignoring him, how easy it would have been. Victory, he learns, is not only about taking ground. It is also about what you do when the fighting stops, when the enemy kneels, and when no one is looking but the men beside you.